Hey guys, it's Alex again. This video is going to be a very specific response to a few questions and concerns about my last video. If you're starting here, I would take a step back. I'm going to call him Big A. Don't know if he prefers to remain anonymous. At first, I made a video just going, point by point, and it ended up being way too long. I tried cutting it down again, and it was still too long. Tried to post it. The next thing you know, YouTube deleted it. So this is my take 3. And basically, I've boiled down your response into 3 main concerns, which I think are the most important things. Of course, if there's still specific questions, let me know. So the first is, human interaction and the human relationship with animals on the earth using resources. Why do humans have a greater claim than animals do, etc. And yeah, that's a great question. First off, all animals, including humans, want to use and maximize their resources with the smallest energy expenditure. So animals will do some funky stuff. Why is it natural for a bird to build a nest, a beaver to build a dam, a rabbit to dig a hole in the ground, but it's not natural for a human to build a home? Some structure, shelter from the elements. Yeah, all can use the resources, can use the earth to make life more enjoyable. Now, of course, there's going to be disputes. Is this my territory, your territory? And unfortunately, we have not found a way yet. Maybe it's possible in the future. Have not found a way to reason with animals yet. So, if I get into a dispute about a grizzly bear, or with a grizzly bear about what's a proper food, I don't think that's going to work. He's just going to eat me, and I have to use force to defend myself, and I think we'd all say that's justified. Again, animals don't have a choice as to what they're built with. Fox has to eat the rabbit, etc. So if you apply the non-aggression principle, I would think you'd have to go around arresting all of them for their own natures, which I don't think that makes sense. Every time a rabbit eats my garden, hey, that's not fair, go eat your own stuff. So I'm not sure they are applicable to the non-aggression principle, which is an enforceable ethical rule. But on the other hand, I do think they deserve consideration. Absolutely. I don't eat red meat or chicken. I eat eggs, but I only buy from cage-free sources. I wouldn't want to support anything that has conditions for an animal that I would not subject my dog to. Also, I think animal abuse is terrible, and I think it's appropriate to, if you see just an animal who's being totally abused, I could step in and do something. I'm not sure I could defend that from first principles, but it sounds fine to me, and maybe you've thought of a way to explain this. I'm certainly curious to see what you think. All right, point number 2. Concerns, what if property rights is used as the justification to do some bad things? The corporation goes and develops the Amazon that belonged to the natives because they did not develop the property, so I don't respect their possession rights or whatever. Same thing with the Europeans taking Native American lands, or what if there's just any other dispute? That is a great question. First off, a corporation is a very specific thing. It's not any old business entity. A corporation is a legal fiction created by the state that has the effect of limiting the liability of the owners of the corporation. So, it's dividing the level of involvement and investment of an owner and his business enterprise. Normally, if the company went broke, you went broke with it, But now, with corporation, it's the corporation that gets sued, not the people who own it. If the corporation, which is run by these people, does bad things, if the corporation goes broke, it's not the people who own it who go broke, it's the labor which is punished. And yeah, that's totally retarded. Corporations do not spring out of the free market. If you look at the history, and we're happy to go into that in another video, it's always been a state-created thing. Anyway, more to your point. You are absolutely correct that people can use their labor to extract resources from land without developing it in the sense of putting a shopping mall or a golf course or something like that we would think of developed as today. I don't understand why that would disinherit you from being able to use the product of the labor that you're putting into the ground. Um, Even if you're a shepherd and you keep sheep around and you use them wool to make clothes, milk to make cheese, eat milk, drink the milk, and slaughter them for food sustenance. Yeah, just because you just have a little maybe home for yourself and you haven't developed all this, I don't see why that disqualifies you. Especially if you get to if you homestead the spot to begin with. I think that the theory of property rights says it's pretty universal that you have the most just claim to it, and before anyone else. So you can call yourself a proprietarian, capitalist, whatever. That still doesn't give you the right to say, well, you're not using your property appropriately, so we're going to take it. And that's the thing. A property right is the right of exclusive ownership. And if you want to sell it, maybe someone can develop it and do something much more productive. But then he has an incentive to pay you a whole lot of money or a whole lot in whatever, so you hand it over to him. So now he can turn that into a huge productive enterprise to then exchange that for the labors of other people. That's a natural incentive that exists. And yeah, I think corporations buying land in the Amazon. Well, that land was probably stolen by the local government from the natives to begin with, and then sold to a corporation. So yeah, that whole thing is smelly. Europeans taking the Native Americans. I don't know that they did have the right to. I certainly, it doesn't sound like it to me. On the other hand, we all recognize that there is homesteading and stuff like that, and we might not develop it in the sense that we currently think of today. We all recognize that you can't just plant your flag or your foot down and say, this is all mine. Everything that the eye can see, or even beyond that, it's all mine. We all recognize that. That's not very that doesn't seem very fair. U.S. can't plant its flag on the moon and say, it's mine, finders keepers. So that's why I think for homesteading it is about possession and what you can work and put in. Once it gets beyond that and things do be owned and traded, it's that plot, it's that product, becomes very specific. If you're just going into empty space, so to speak, it's only what you can possess and homestead. Okay, third point. I'll make sure I'm doing it on time. Ooh, getting close. So you can see why I had such a hard time before staying within a short time. You had I thought, just an incredibly interesting point about, private property itself is violence because, we're forced to own stuff. We're forced to own structures and land so we can get the benefits of that for sustenance, to keep life going. So, we're forced to do it. What do you think of them apples? And that is a terrific point. You are absolutely correct that life requires sustenance. It's any life, plant, animal, whatever, and if you don't do the actions required to sustain your life, it will expire. Now, you are not forced to make that choice. Some people choose the other way, and that's always really sad, and I think most people recognize that putting in effort to keep your life going is worth it, because you can derive some happiness out of existence. It's great. You can find love, you can find, the universe can be a puzzle that you solve, you produce things, you figure how things work. I mean, it can be great. And the type of violence that you're talking about, it might be helpful to think of another example. I am free to jump off a cliff. I am not free to decide what happens after that. Gravity is not something I can debate with, argue with. It is there. And I don't think it'd be fair to say, oh, I'm being exploited by nature, that it just sucks me down, I want to fly. I don't think we would say that. We would say, if we want to cross this cliff, we say, oh, we need to build a bridge. And again, it requires some, engineering principles, things like that. We wouldn't say, again, I'm being exploited because I can't build a bridge out of bubbles. There are choices presented in front of you, and depending on which way you want to go, you have certain requirements for fulfilling it, but no one forces you to make the choice. And that's why I think there has to be some way to distinguish what you're talking about between the violence of one person to another, that is, taking away the ability to make choices. If you assault someone, you're not allowing that person to choose not to be assaulted. You're if you steal from them, you're not giving them the choice of how they use their labor. You're forcing it to go one way, and I think we'd all agree that's not too fair. Okay. Well, this is probably time, so I'll end it here, and we'll continue. Let me know what you think.